Hello and welcome to the Morning OJ. This is a show for youth where we get to share our thoughts about the world around us. I am your host, Ariana Monet Grant. In this season of Showing Love, we will be learning about Special Olympics, a movement that has created a world of athletes with special needs. This movement was founded in 1968 to create a better world, where every single person is welcome regardless of ability or disability. Special Olympics is working to make the world a better place. I am excited to welcome to our show a very special guest, Miss Kelsey Nicole Nelson, a news reporter on KNN Fox Sports Radio who has covered Special Olympics events. Welcome to the show, Miss Nelson.
Thank you so much for having me, and thank you for that phenomenal introduction. I think you've had the best one I've had thus far, so thanks so much. I'm excited to speak with you today.
Thank you. Me too. Question 1, can you tell us about what exactly you do or have done with Special Olympics?
Of course, I'd be more than honored to. And so about a year ago, I actually first began kind of working with Special Olympics. They reached out to me and, they shared all of this great information. Like, Kelsey, we have these great ambassadors. We're doing all this great work. And I was like, this is phenomenal. And I was actually already familiar with Special Olympics because I actually had an uncle who had Down syndrome. And so growing up with my uncle and being there for him and my family loving him like every other member of our family, we saw the great work that Special Olympics did early on, especially with people with intellectual disabilities. And so when we started talking and communicating, one interview, Ariana, led to 2, which led to 3, which led to 10. And now I have Special Olympic guests all the time on my show. And it's truly been an honor. So I bring their guests on my show and we talk about their brand new initiatives. Even right now, I'm a part of their EKS 100 campaign, which talks about the founder of Special Olympics, Eunice Kennedy Shriver, and all of the great work that she has been doing with Special Olympics. She passed away, unfortunately, but this would have been her 100th birthday this year. So we're celebrating it in style. We're talking about all the great work, and I'm actually interviewing members of their Founders Council. These are her grandchildren, all right? These are the grandchildren. There's 6 of them on this council doing just phenomenal work and making sure that her vision lives on, making sure that we choose to include and continuing the inclusion revolution. So it's been fantastic. And also this week, I had a special guest on my show from Special Olympics. She's a Special Olympics celebrity supporter by the name of Elizabeth Rome. If you know that name, if you watch Law & Order SVU, she appeared on that. Many Law & Order fans out there, and now she's doing a lot of great work with Special Olympics. And she got to reveal on my show this brand new $30 million gift that Special Olympics just got from a philanthropist that's going to help them do so much great work across the globe, which we were super excited about. And a lot of their work is going to be focused on inclusive health, all right? Making sure that people with ID get access to healthcare, quality healthcare, and so on and so on. So it's been fun. Basically, I get to help them break news. They've gotten special guests on my show. I've had football players and basketball players and pretty much anyone that you can think of. So it's been great to kind of work with Special Olympics side by side. I think their message goes hand in hand with why I love sports, honestly, because sports is all about inclusion and bringing people together. And so is Special Olympics.
Wow, that is amazing.
Lots of stuff going on basically with Special Olympics, Ariana.
How many years have you reported on this?
Ooh, so that's a great question. So I have been talking about people with intellectual disabilities for a long time, even before Special Olympics. So honestly, I would probably say since I started my broadcast career, and so I'll count from the year I was a senior at the University of Maryland, which was 2014. So since 2014, I've been talking about this very important issue. It's near and dear to my heart, and actually something that's a part of my show is called my Kelsey's Do Good Award. And essentially, that award I give out to people or organizations who are doing good work in the community. I think, unfortunately, far too often in sports, we hear a lot of the bad headlines, right? Like when these guys mess up or when guys or girls do wrong. But I want to talk about the good in sports. So many athletes starting foundations, giving back, doing good. So that's probably one of the favorite segments of my show. And Special Olympics has been featured on there many times, as well as many other organizations who are doing positive things through sports every day in our communities. You know, just last week I covered Sean Merriman. He was at the University of Maryland for a coat drive, giving coats to those in need. Unfortunately, as a little child, and this is a former NFL player who was a great NFL player, a great standout player at the University of Maryland. But growing up, he had to move a lot. His family's house caught fire 4 times growing up. So they had to relocate. He lost a lot of clothing. So now he gives back to the community and those who are homeless, are jobless, making sure that these kids have coats for the winter. I don't know if you've noticed, Ariana, but it started to get really cold around here. So I think we know how important this is. And so this is what I like doing with the athletes, right? They're far beyond what they just do on the field. Special Olympics realizes that, and the power of community is giving back. And so I think this has been ingrained in me since I was a little child. My parents got me early on volunteering. I think when I graduated high school, I had almost 2,500 student service learning hours. So safe to say that basically I've always loved giving back. It's always kind of been a part of me because I truly believe my favorite quote is what we do in life echoes in eternity. And so for me, that always means what can I leave here? I don't know what day will be my last day, but whatever day is my last day, I want people to just remember Kelsey gave back. Kelsey made me feel good, Ariana. That's why I start every day with a big smile because I never know whose life that might make better or who's having a bad day that might make better. And also just wanted to make sure that I give back because I've truly been blessed in life.
Wow, that is amazing. And that is a long time.
Yes, I'm old, Ariana. I'm getting older and older. So it's been a while.
You look young. You look like
you don't have
25. You look young.
Yeah,
you look
we'll take 25. We'll take 25.
Yeah. Why did you want to get involved with this organization?
That's a great question. So I think I wanted to get involved because I love to be aligned with organizations that have similar mission and values as me. Organizations that I think are doing really good work that I want to help latch onto because I want to help it be even greater. And so for me, joining Special Olympics again was a no-brainer. Growing up with my uncle who had Down syndrome and seeing how people would treat him differently, right? And not like he's not the same or like they couldn't, like he wasn't an equal. That was very hurtful. And I think also just growing up in general, when you see so many people treating people differently because they're different than them. I experienced this growing up with my background, sometimes being in classrooms with many people who did not look like me. And they were sometimes trying to figure out, well, how is she here? How is she in this classroom? And so I think with Special Olympics, just the power of them wanting to include everyone, that word inclusion. And you know, one of my favorite quotes as well, I love quotes, you're going to realize that in this interview, is from James Brown: diversity wins and inclusion matters. And I think that inclusion matters is so important. And the fact that Special Olympics has preached this from very early on, all right, this organization has been around a long time now. They've always been in the forefront of that. And they've always been about including everybody and bringing everybody to the table. And so for me, it was easy to join Special Olympics. And I'm just honored that they trust me with sharing and communicating their story, that they pitched me all these great people to come on my show and that we're able to have a conversation with them. And so again, it's been from the beginning, Ariana, that I've been working with them. And now it's just kind of more on a bigger scale. You know, every week I'm sporting especially now that it's cold, my Special Olympics sweatshirt around town. I had a chance to go to New York and they did a brand new Be Brave initiative. And it was so great. I don't know, you're probably too young to know this, but Nigel Barker, for all the America's Next Top Model fans, you know who this is, a celebrity photographer, got to go to New York and he was shooting a campaign with them when they had actually paired with the New York Parsons School of Design to launch a brand new kind of Be Brave sportswear line where these athletes that had just talked about being brave, being yourself, being true to who you are. And it was so excited to see that. And these athletes were like smiling. And again, being photographed by one of the best photographers in the world. This is what Special Olympics does. And it brings that power of inclusion to us all. And it was just such an honor to be a part of that, especially during my first New York Fashion Week. That was my first introduction to New York Fashion Week. And it was a wonderful event that Special Olympics was doing. And so again, I feel like I get jitters on it. I smile every time I talk about them just because they do so much great work nationally, but also locally. And I think in every state, you can pretty much find a Special Olympics organization that's making a difference in the lives of so many athletes. I just interviewed Chris Nikic about 2 months ago. And if you guys remember Chris Nikic, he was the first person, if you guys remember, with Down syndrome to complete the Ironman. The Ironman I couldn't do, all right? I need to get in shape to be able to do that. And what he did was incredible, his story. He just released a brand new book called 1% Better. It has a wonderful message about each day getting 1% better than the next day. He was magnificent to come on my show. I had him and his dad. He had that wonderful speech at the ESPYs, and we just kind of got to continue that. He's going to do more marathons. He wants to write more books. This man is incredible. He's amazing. And getting a chance to share his story on my platform, I mean, it gives me chills and just jitters, because this is why I love, honestly, broadcast work. I'm a storyteller. That's how I describe myself. And I get to help tell these stories and share them with the world for the world to latch onto. And his story is one I think should truly be in every household, not just in America, but around the world, because those are the stories that inspire us all. And when you have a bad day or think you can't do something, you see a young man like Chris, and you know what? You switch that attitude in your mind, like, yes, I can do this. Yes, I will put the effort forward. And at least I'll try, give my best and try to do this and move forward.
That is a wonderful reason to help others.
Yeah, it's so important. And I know you do it as well. I know there's so many people out there do it as well. But, I believe every neighborhood is as strong as each one of its members. And so that means all of us need to be helping each other up. It's not only about one person being strong. It's about us all being stronger together. And I think about all the people who poured into me growing up. I had so many mentors, right, that would reach out to me and make sure that I was going to be on the right track and that I was going to be okay. And so it's so important to me to give back. We stand on the shoulders of giants to whom much is given, much is required. And that's something that I preach each and every day to my mentees and everybody that's around me.
That is like just very, very good.
So again, you're just such a good interviewer. You have all of my answers just spewing out, and I want to share it with the world.
What is your most favorite story you remember?
Ooh, favorite story. This is a good one. I will give a story about giving back. I think my favorite story is when I first joined this group called Happy Period DC. And they are a group, and before COVID, we were meeting at least once a month. And what we would do is we would create menstrual kits for homeless women in Washington, D.C. I think, when people give out items and materials to homeless people, a lot of times you see them give coats or, hats and gloves, which is very important. Or you'll also see people setting up food. But sometimes we don't think about one of those most important issues for women. And if you're a female, until you get to menopause, something that happens to us every single month is you have a cycle, right? And so for homeless women, we know how expensive it is to get, toiletries and tampons and pads and things like that. So I think when I first had the chance to not only create these materials for homeless women in Washington, D.C., but then to actually go out and give these to homeless women and have women just say, thank you. That experience was unlike any other. And I've been living in the DMV area for a very long time, but just the power of giving these women clean panties and socks, and again, tampons and pads, things that they could use and need, and things that sometimes they would go each month, Ariana, just not even thinking they could afford and having to find different ways to try to deal with their cycle. I think it was really tough to see that. And again, I think it's something that people don't always think about. But when you're there and you're doing it, and then you're with other people that care as much as you, guys and girls, and we would do it at the Bar Louie, that was that gallery place. We would pack up there. We would kind of create like an assembly line, almost like a factory of sort, and we would pack these bags and we load up the trucks and vans and we go out together. So I remember my first time doing that. And I remember I had a man shake my hand, because we also do them for men as well. And of course, the men have underwear and socks and things like that for them to be able to use in undergarments. He shook my hand and he smiled. I remember he only had 2 teeth in his mouth. He said, thank you for seeing me. And he said, can I take a picture with you? I said, of course you can take a picture with me, like whatever you want to do. And I think when he said, thank you for seeing me, and we ended up having a conversation. And if you can't tell, I like to talk, Ariana. We ended up having this great long conversation. And it was hurtful to see that so many people passed by him and he felt invisible and he felt like giving up. And just through this small act of kindness that I was able to do, we created a friendship and bond. And since I work in DC, he used to be all the time. I started seeing him at the Farragut North Metro, and this is pre-COVID. And every time I go to the metro station, Ariana, I give him a hug and we talk. And then sometimes we go have lunch together or a late lunch together. And it was just nice. And so again, this kind of created a friendship with a man that I would have never met if it weren't through this act of kindness and forgiveness. And it just shows you, just sometimes making sure people see or feel seen and feel heard and feel visible, that can go a very long way. And he's somebody I can't wait to catch up on. Since I haven't been at work at much, I haven't got to see him because of COVID, but I think that's just one of my favorite stories because it just shows how compassion can go a long way. And sometimes it's not just about giving money to somebody, it's about really spending quality time with them and knowing what their needs are to best fulfill them and best serve them.
That was very interesting.
It kind of shows how you can meet sometimes random people, right? And then make these strong connections because you never know. And I wasn't, when I first started volunteering with them, I just thought, we were going to pack these great packs and give them out. But I wasn't really thinking I'd form this really strong connection with somebody that I didn't know. And lo and behold, two people that, from the outside, you think we have so much not in common. We actually had a lot in common and had really great conversations. And again, I gained a new friend.
That was so special that you made friends with that homeless man.
And that's always great to gain a friend and someone that you can be able to help and someone that can lean on you when they're in their time of need. Because I think when life is going good, Ariana, a lot of us don't think about the dark days or dark times that can come. But anybody that's been through that knows how important it can be to have somebody on the other side that's listening to you, that wants to help you, and somebody that's there for you.
I'm just curious, have you played sports before, and what is your favorite sport?
Great question. So yes, I played sports. I started playing sports very early on. I was a daddy's girl growing up, and I'm naturally competitive, which means if it's out there, I want to be playing it because I want to win. All right, Ariana. So I played a bunch of sports growing up. I played tennis, I played volleyball, I played basketball, I played soccer. I did soccer. My first soccer team was called the Cavity Busters because we were sponsored by a dentist. So that was a lot of fun. I enjoyed every position on the soccer field until they put me in at goalie. And then I was like, you know what? This is just not going to work. All right. Having hard balls come at your head all the time, I did not like. So soccer was fun, but I switched to basketball, and I was tall growing up, and basketball was just a natural love and fit. I always loved the game. I loved the WNBA. I remember, watching the Washington Mystics growing up. That was great. I played tennis at Cabin John, and of course, the Williams sisters, and that was phenomenal and great. I did volleyball as well. I used to go to volleyball camps at Bullis in the area. So it was phenomenal and great. So I played a bunch of sports. I was always active. I still have the scars and bruises to prove it. And my parents, now that me and my sister are out the house, are like, Kelsey, thank you. We get to rest now, because I was always going to something, Ariana, because the sports were happening, all the time. But I'll tell you, my favorite sport is by far football. My dad went to Grambling State University. Remember, I said I was a daddy's girl. So growing up, I grew up in the world of HBCU sports. And for those that don't know, HBCUs, historically Black colleges and universities. And so I remember being at the games in my black and gold and yelling with my dad. And even now I'm counting down to the Bayou Classic. So excited for that. But yeah, when you grow up with HBCU sports, it's hard. It's hard to not fall in love with the game. And so since my dad went to Grambling, I knew early of Eddie Robinson and Doug Williams. And these are the guys that I was like, wow, these are idols of the game, and just knowing so many different greats. And so even now it's an honor now to cover football in my hometown, because it's by far my favorite sport. And it's something that I love to do. And honestly, football anywhere, anytime, any day is great. And a fun fact about me, I actually played flag football in the NFL Flag Football League while I was a member of the Boys and Girls Club Germantown branch. So I also got to play a little football as well growing up.
That was very cool. Can you guess what my favorite sport is?
Let me see if I'm remembering it right. You had like Taekwondo lessons, or was it karate lessons or something recently? Am I hot or cold, Ariana?
It was Taekwondo. Yeah, it was Taekwondo.
That was right. Okay, it was Taekwondo. So is Taekwondo the favorite sport?
Well, I wouldn't really call it a sport. I would call it an exercise.
Okay. So what's the favorite sport?
Okay. It is. So I do track. I like to do track, and I like to do basketball, just
nice.
like you. Every day at recess, I go around and around the field, and for like 10 minutes, and then I stop, and then I just get like a water break, and then I just do it again.
Oh, that's awesome.
And sometimes I do basketball because they have like this little hoop. And sometimes when we go to PE, I go like shoot hoops
You
and
do it
I like,
all. This deserved a drum
yeah,
roll or something. You're
yeah.
phenomenal. I think I'm going to be covering you one day. I'm excited for it. Bring it on.
Last question is for me
Yes.
because I'm becoming a news reporter like you. What tips can you give me on this career?
That is a wonderful question. I think everybody asks, right? Like, so how can I do what you're doing and do it even better? I'd say, for one, what you're doing right now is the best thing that you can do, because I say repetition, 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 repetition. Practice makes perfect, just like in the games that you're playing, or just like when you're running on that track. So, what you're doing, I think, first is get as much experience as you can. I think now there's even more opportunities for young people to get involved. So many teen networks now, especially with social media. I mean, you can really make your own network and broadcast anything that you want to broadcast. So as much as I talk to young people now, I say, use what you have, use the power of social media and begin to practice your craft. But also with that, begin to build your brand. Make sure people know your name. Make sure you have a social media handle where you're putting all of your content so it can live. Make sure that you're gaining followers. Send all your work to your family and friends. Push it out any and everywhere that you can. I'd say that's the biggest piece of advice I give. But secondly, I'd say learn your voice very early. And what I mean by that is it took me a little bit of a while to learn who I truly was in broadcast media, because I realized, Ariana, early on, I was being what everybody else wanted me to be. And I wasn't being true to myself and my personality. And so when you're trying to play this role, when you're trying to be like somebody else, you just don't feel that comfortable. When you're not comfortable, it can be hard to do your best job. So I'd say find your true and authentic self very early on. So that means finding out who you truly are and who you are happiest with, and put that in front of the camera. And then my third piece of advice is 3 words. It's called bet on yourself, which basically just means believe in yourself. Sometimes there will be naysayers and people who tell you, why do you want to do that? Or why are you doing that? Guess what? If you want to do it, put your mind to it and don't let anybody deter you. That's something else that also happened to me early in my career. I had loved journalism for a long time. In high school, I was yearbook editor in chief. I was news managing editor of our newspaper. But when I went to college, everyone's like, journalists don't make money. And I was like, wait, what do you mean they don't make money? And I didn't come from money. So I'm like, in my mind, I want to make a lot of money. So I went to Maryland, a psychology major, got through the classes, but was not happy in my classes, switched to the journalism major, and the rest was history. And this is why I'm here talking to you. So I'd say make sure you don't let anybody deter you. If you want to do something, it's nice for people to give you advice, but keep on track. Trust your power. And actually, if anybody has seen the new Colin in black and white film, I highly recommend you watching that, because that's one of the messages that Colin Kaepernick also was pushing and promoting. Trust your power. Again, bet on yourself, believe in yourself. And that means invest in yourself. Do practice. Make sure, if you can, get a voice coach if you can, if you're older. Have people that can critique your work, right? Send it to journalists. See if you can go shadow a journalist in the news station or go shadow them at a game. You just have to find as many opportunities as possible to get experience and network within the industry. So that's kind of what I'd say. But if you believe in yourself, everything else that I said will happen, because you're going to be putting your best foot forward and all of your energy and effort into your craft.
Those were great suggestions. I love to talk, so I may have this career when I grow up.
I think you will have it. I wouldn't say I think you have it. You are going to have it. You're speaking it into existence, Ariana.
Well, Miss Nelson, I want to thank you for what you do, the important stories that you report on, talking with youth like me, and most of all, thank you for being on our show.
Well, thank you for having me, and just thank you for this great conversation and for your time, because I also know how busy you are. And thanks for being so well prepared with those wonderful questions. I'm so thankful for just you, and you were phenomenal and you were great, and I will forever cherish and remember this interview. And I can't wait to push it out to my friends and family so they can know who you are early on, and we'll get to say we knew her before she got big and famous.
Thank you so much. Now we will take a look at some footage of Special Olympics. Maryland, which just had its fall tennis tournament at Junior Tennis Champion Center in College Park, Maryland. Let's take a peek.
Hi, my name is Sam Boyd. I am the Director of Volunteer Management for Special Olympics Maryland. Today's event is our Interscholastic Unified Tennis State Tournament. We have about 150 unified student athletes coming out today. So these students are all competing in our unified tennis. So some of them will be competing in singles, doubles. They have been training for several weeks as a part of their school programs. And we've got volunteers out here ready to support them and help the games go smoothly. It's going to be a beautiful day. Special Olympics Maryland is always welcoming new volunteers. So if you were looking for a sign to come out and get involved with us, today is your sign. Come on out.
Yes, my name is Jim Schmutz. I'm the president and CEO for Special Olympics Maryland. And today we have our Interscholastic Unified Sports Tennis State Championship. So we have teams from high school teams from all across the state coming here to compete against one another. They play doubles matches. Each of the doubles teams has one special education student and one non-special education student, combining in a team to compete against other teams of similar makeup. So today's the culmination of the season. They've played a series of matches throughout the fall. They had district qualifying tournaments, and now they're here today at the JTCC in College Park to compete at the state tournament.
That's awesome. That's awesome. You know, it's really interesting to see, like, you know, to have such a diverse event, you know, for students and giving them the opportunity. But is there anything else you want to tell our audience? Anything you want the people to know?
Well, I think what it does show, you're talking about diversity and inclusion. This is a really good example of how we're building interactive, inclusive communities of dignity and respect through sport. Special Olympics is partnering with 21 of 24 school systems across the state to bring this interscholastic unified sports experience. So it's a varsity-like sports experience that gives opportunities who might not otherwise play on a varsity team in a traditional sense to participate in this venue. And so we do tennis in the fall, we do indoor bocce in the winter and strength and conditioning in the winter, and then outdoor bocce and track and field in the spring. This is a result of state legislation back in 2008. So we've been doing this now for over 13 years. It's just a great demonstration of how this state comes together in support of individuals with intellectual disabilities and creating a unified generation.
Now it's my pleasure to get us underway. My name is Jim Schmutz, and I'm the president and CEO for Special Olympics Maryland. And with me today is my co-MC, David Godoy from Montgomery County. He participates in the community program there. David, just a couple quick questions. How old are you?
40 years old.
And how long have you been in Special Olympics?
I've been in Special Olympics for 21 years.
All right, so if you do the math, you know that there is life in Special Olympics after high school, and you'll hear a little bit more from David later on in this presentation. But David, where were you born?
I was born in Ecuador.
And when did you come to the United States?
I came to the United States in 1995.
Excellent. So you were 14. Did you speak English when you came?
No, I didn't speak English, but there is a program called ESOL for native speakers. So I took ESOL level 1, level 2, level 3, all the way to level 5, and later on I took regular courses.
Excellent, thank you. So David is just an example of how you create the future. David, what did the doctors tell your parents when you were born?
They said, I won't be able to walk, I won't be able to go to school, learn my ABCs, I won't be able to learn my math, computers, and look at me now. It is my pleasure to welcome you to the 2021 Interscholastic Unified Tennis State Tournament.
Thank you.
Good old days, man. Good old days.
Well, that's our show for today. Thank you to our viewing audience for tuning into the Morning OJ. And remember to have some OJ in the morning and lots of vitamin C.